I mean,
Yeah, whatever. Name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. So tonight we've got Sarah and Rami. Known Sarah and Rami for 10 plus years. Rami longer than 10 years. Yeah. Fun fact: Rami has a twin brother who is just as good looking as he is.
It's true.
Yeah. Questionable. But Sarah and Rami are going to be giving us a two-part series. Part one today is about how to deal with baggage, and you guys can tell us about what. You just tap on this side.
Oh, it's at the end.
Here. I got it.
It's close.
Okay, here. There you go. Okay. All right, floor is yours.
All right. Hi, guys. So, yeah, as Aki mentioned, my name is Rami. This is my wife, Sarah. You guys all know Sarah. I know very few of you.
I don't know any of you.
Yeah.
Maybe two total. I also have to apologize. I'm just going to keep my phone up here. I'm not being rude, but just in case the babysitters call us and there's an emergency, we just need to be able to see when they call. So sorry about that.
All right. So,
I have to be nice to Mississauga today because I'm with my Mississauga.
And I love
husband.
Mississauga.
So
exactly.
For those of you that were at my last talk, I'm going to be significantly more mellow and politically correct this time.
Are you really? Let's see. So, we want to talk about breakups and baggage. So, a lot of people, when we talk to them, when they talk to us about, their life and how things are going, it inevitably comes up that there was this one person that scarred them, or this one relationship that they had that, they, for some reason, for one reason or another, it left them and they couldn't get over it, or there's something that's holding them back, and they feel that that this one situation in their life has really, shaped a lot of their future. And so we thought it was something that we should talk about in case some of you are going through that, or some of you are going to deal with that situation in the future, to, have a way to approach it.
And we also, in our community, we don't talk about this stuff enough, in my opinion. And when we do talk about it, it's about the fluffy and everybody lives happily ever after and happy marriages and things like that. But we never talk about this part. And I think it's because traditionally talking about breakups and past relationships was something that's very taboo. But I think that's over now. I think we're all past that. I think we're at a point, I hope, where we can all acknowledge that, the person you marry may not necessarily have been your first relationship, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you've had a breakup, good for you, because that's a divorce that you avoided. So good for you. So I think we're at the point where we're safe to talk about stuff like this, and I think it's important that we talk about stuff like this, and I just don't think it gets talked about enough.
So whether or not you've been in a relationship, your life experiences will inevitably shape how you see something, will shape your views towards things and your reactions. The same situation can be perceived very differently by two different people. And we notice this all the time, especially in our day-to-day interactions. So I'll give you an example. So we have two kids. Our daughter is 2.5 and our son is 1. Millie, my daughter Millie, she's
a personality.
She's a personality, yeah. So she takes
after her mom.
She's Sarah shrunk. And so, when she started daycare, she got into a few conflicts with people. And so she, in my mind, is a little bit of a bully.
But can we just give some context? So Millie is 2.5, but she looks about the same size as her 1-year-old brother. Like, she's very small, she's very petite, she's not even on the growth chart for her age. Like, she's very
tiny.
Behind in the growth physical part.
Yeah, she's a little kid.
And she also has no insight into her size. So she's about this big, and everybody else in her class is about this big, and she doesn't understand that you don't pick a fight with somebody who's 3 times your size. She doesn't get that.
So she came home, and they gave us these little reports at daycare, and the report was that essentially Millie got into a fight with someone. And they don't tell you who, but she, of course, told us who right away. And it was someone, significantly larger than her. And so when she came home and she was telling us about this was the first time she got into an altercation with somebody. And so we were like, okay, we have to deal with this. Like, what do we say? Like, what do we do? how do we approach this?
But we both assumed that we would be on the same page about this because this is a major life whatever. So we both reacted at the same time. My reaction was, good for you. You make sure you hit him back and you hit him harder so that he doesn't come and do this again. And Rami's looking at me like,
I'm like, what are you saying? Like, you're destroying our little girl. Like, what are you doing? Like, we don't endorse violence. Like, this is not okay.
We learned that we have very different perspectives on what the appropriate reaction to that situation is. It's the same situation. Rami wanted to give her a timeout.
I was like, we need to get this dealt with right away.
And I wanted to give her a high five. Good for you. Don't let anybody push you around. Good for you.
So then we realized that we need to not talk about it right now, and that we need to, shelve it. After she goes to bed, talk about what we need to have a united front about this. And it was interesting to see, why did we have very different reactions to the same situation? And I think for us, a lot of it was our upbringing. I come from a non-violent upbringing.
I come from a very confrontational household. And I can tell you that there were 100 situations where I was at school and something similar happened and I got high fives when the principal called, not any consequences. So it's the same exact situation. We're both living through the same situation, but our perspectives are completely different. And unfortunately, in relationships, that can be something that's very rate limiting because you don't know that the other person's perspective is so vastly different until you're in that situation. And it also takes a lot of insight for you to be able to dig deeper into why your perspective is what it is. And unfortunately, sometimes that brings about past situations that were not positive. And that's okay, as long as you can dig deep and get insight into why you feel the way you feel and whether it's warranted. That's okay. I really, truly, from the bottom of my heart, believe that every relationship, whether it ended well or didn't end well, is something that was good for you because it taught you something. It taught you something about how you feel. It taught you something about yourself. It taught you something that you needed to know to prepare you for whatever relationship was going to be the lasting one. So that's okay. But I think what's important about it is to acknowledge whatever it is and to dig a little bit deeper so that you're not just constantly sitting at the surface. Do you know what I mean?
Find out why your reaction was, why did you react to that specific situation? What led you to have that reaction so that you can at least, understand yourself more and understand how you're going to react next time when another situation comes.
So today what we're going to talk about is two major themes. So the first one is bouncing back from a breakup. Again, like I said, we're all just going to set the foundation here. We're going to set the stage that we're okay to talk about the fact that we've been in previous relationships before. If we have been, that's okay. Nobody's damaged goods because they've broken up with somebody and are single or not single or whatever. Nobody cares, okay? So bouncing back from previous relationships and then minimizing the effect that previous relationships have had on your future relationships. Those are the two main themes that we're going to talk about today. Okay, breakups.
Okay. Breakups are not easy. They are very difficult situations. You have a relationship with someone, no matter how long that relationship was, you built something, and then no matter why the breakup happened or who instigated the breakup or whatever situation leads around it, you are left different than what you were before, and you're left sad.
You could be sad because, you really did feel very strongly about the person. Or what I also see happen a lot is you feel sad because you had invested in a future, independent of that person, you were invested in a future outcome, and now that outcome has been taken away from you. So I remember, I'll never forget one of my closest friends when she broke up with somebody that she had been dating for a long time. She told me, I'm upset about him, yeah, but I'm upset about the amount of time that I invested in this relationship. And I really thought that by this point, I would be somewhere else in my life, and I feel like I wasted my time on him. And you know what? Even though, we're not pursuing the outcome of marriage as an absolute concept, that's fair, because you've invested a lot. And you put a lot of effort into whatever the situation was, and now, for whatever reason, whether that relationship ending was a good thing or a bad thing for you, you've lost something that you were kind of striving towards, and that's fair. It's fair for it to be hard to deal with that. It's fair for it to be hard to get over that.
And it's also hard because, the absence of that person. So, whatever it may be, you wake up in the morning, you say hi to this person, you say goodnight, and you are communicating with them throughout the day, and then all of a sudden, in the next day, that's all gone. Like there isn't that person that you are reaching out to all the time that's sharing whatever situation you're going through. And that absence on its own, even if that person was not the right person for you, is very difficult.
And it's also hard to break out of that routine. So you had a routine where, this person dominated a good chunk of your time, and now all of a sudden they're not physically there, but your habit is to dwell on it. It's so easy for you now to fixate on it because there's nothing to fill that void that the person left. So all of a sudden, where all of your conversations would be around that person, they still are, but they're around the breakup. And you're fixating on the breakup and what happened and the what ifs and what if I said this differently, what if he said this differently, what if she said this differently, and your conversation with your friends are all about the breakup, and everything in your mind is colored by the breakup. And that's not unreasonable. That's a reasonable reaction, but the issue is that the longer that goes on, the more destructive that can be for your life.
So like that is reasonable to occur for a finite amount of time, and we're not here to tell you what that finite amount of time is.
I mean, I have an opinion about it, but yes.
Sure. But I'm sure you do.
I have an opinion about everything, which you will learn.
But either way, like that finite amount of time has to be a short amount of time, and if we dwell in that time too long, it becomes very destructive.
Okay, so we're going to go through a biblical example. Just a disclaimer, the biblical example is not about a breakup per se. It's about coping with a difficult situation. For me, I love this example because I love the dramatic people in the Bible, right? Because I'm dramatic. So I'm drawn to people that are similar to me. So King David, very high highs, very low lows, very dominated by his emotions, very impulsive. That's me. So I can relate to his high highs and his low lows. But like I said, it's not a relationship specific example. It's just an example of how do you cope when something unexpected happens, something that you were really hoping wouldn't happen happens. How do you cope?
So I'll just set the background of what's like occurring here. So King David, king of Israel, the way that it worked back in the day is every springtime is like wartime. So in the spring, people will, like the kings will lead their armies to war against whatever nation is around, and it's something that occurred very commonly around the springtime. And so oftentimes those kings will take it, and then they'll lead the battle and take their army with them. This specific year, or this specific time, King David decided that nope, I'm not going to lead the army to battle. I'm going to send, my general to do it, and I'm going to sit around and, stay in the palace. And so he saw one of his servants he sent out, Uriah. He was, a soldier, just like any other soldier. And he had a wife her name was Bathsheba. She was beautiful apparently, and he was, up on the balcony or on the rooftop, and he was looking down on the city, and she was in her rooftop bathing. Apparently you bathe in the rooftops anyway. And so he saw her bathing. He thought she was beautiful. One thing led to another. Bam, bam. And, and a few months later she's pregnant.
That's why he sent him.
Yeah, he sent him off to war so that he would be killed so that he could marry. Yeah.
So that Bam was not his death. Bam was them having sex and having
Even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so afterwards he eventually sent off her husband to war, to the front of the battle, and
knowing that he would be killed. Like that
Yeah.
was his intention, that he would be killed, and then she's
there for the taking, already pregnant.
Okay, so we know that this is all wrong. Okay, David has been ignoring his, sense of right and wrong, and so Nathan, the prophet, comes to David and says, the Lord has seen what you're doing. Repent quickly because you're screwing up your life. Which David does, to his credit, he does. But for every sin, there's an earthly consequence and a heavenly consequence. And so the earthly consequence that he's been served is that his son, by Bathsheba, has to die. Okay? So that's we're setting the stage, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through what David does, okay? This is the situation that's being handed to him. He's being told by Nathan that your son is going to die as a result of your actions, okay? Not what he wants, obviously, okay? But how does he cope? How does he take this information about this difficult situation, this outcome that he doesn't want to have, this outcome that he wants to prevent, and how does he cope with it, okay? So, step 1, acknowledge your fault. So David's reaction is, when he's told by Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. Okay? He takes responsibility for the part that he played in this situation. And in a breakup, this is key. Because I don't care what your situation is, there is no breakup that is ever entirely one person's fault. It doesn't exist. Okay? If you have broken up, it's because on either side, there was an issue. You can throw whatever situation you want at me. I see people like, well, you don't know my situation. I know, okay? He cheated on me, she cheated on me, that's fine, okay? Maybe their response to whatever your relationship problems were was wrong. That's fine. But that doesn't mean that there weren't any problems predisposing that action, okay? So there is never a breakup that is completely one-sided. Similarly, when we talk about conflict resolution, it is almost never a one-sided blame game in a conflict. Almost never. So the first step to coping with a breakup is making sure that you acknowledge the role that you played. You give yourself closure by doing that. And more importantly than your closure is you learn from your mistakes. Because when you can dig deeper into what role you played in that situation, it gives you insight into your reactions, and it gives you prospective hope about how you're going to fix those reactions, why you reacted the way you did, and how you can prevent that in the future. Because like I said, nobody's blameless. Nobody's blameless. And from the exterior, anybody can look on and be like, oh yeah, it was definitely his fault. Like, she dodged a bullet. Okay, fine. Maybe there was more fault on one side or the other, but it's never 100 and 0. Never.
So if you...
I can't stabilize that across the board because some people guilt themselves so much that I can't just say that, like, no one of my investors or me. I guilt myself all the time. I go through a breakup, I'm going to blame myself for his reaction. I'm just going to be like, it's a reaction. So I can't just throw the blame on, like, across the board and just say, I got to.
So we're not saying to blame it purely on yourself at
Yeah,
all.
But tons of people do that. That's what I'm trying
Absolutely. So that's also negative.
Like, it's just an extreme end of this.
So there are always two extremes, right? So there's the people that always blame everybody else and the people that always blame themselves, right? Always. And both of those people are extremely destructive. Both of them. What you want to be is you want to be somewhere in the middle. You want to be able to acknowledge that, you know what, somebody screwed up and there is parts of your relationship where you were a victim and that wasn't fair and you didn't deserve that. But there are also parts of the relationship where you screwed up and parts of the relationship where you shouldn't have reacted the way you did and you shouldn't have said what you did. So we don't ever want you to fall on either end of the spectrum. There is no side of that spectrum that's a healthy side of the spectrum. But what you need to be able to do is, I mean, I'm sure everybody's very good at pointing out the other person's faults. I'm very, very good at that. But you need to be able to have insight into your own part as well. You need to be able to see what you did wrong. For closure, yes, but also to make sure that you're not setting yourself up for another failure. Because if you can't do that, if you can't acknowledge where you went wrong and what you did that was less than ideal, then the next time you're in a situation like that, it's going to happen again. And your blame game of that person keeps like screwing up and it's their fault and it's their fault, that's never going to end. So this is more for you than it is for anybody else. Like, if I'm sitting there and I'm talking to you, I don't know the other person. I don't care about the other person. If you're coming off a breakup, I don't care what their reaction is if I'm talking to you. The reason we talk about this is because this is for you. You need to figure out your role in this to help you in the future. It's got nothing to do with the other person. I don't want the other person to feel better because you've acknowledged what you've done wrong. I don't care how they feel. I care what this is going to do to you and your perspective on the next one.
Like the goal of, at the end of a relationship, if that relationship didn't work out, then the goal is for you to somehow change or grow so that the next time you are better equipped in a relationship, or that there is something from that situation that has changed you. Because if you are in a relationship, you've gone through all this emotional roller coaster, you break up, and at the end of the day, you're exactly the same as the way that you started, you haven't changed in any way for the positive, then that was, useless. And so the only way to really change and grow from any situation is to, look at that situation, see what happened, what role you played, and how you can change from it.
Don't let that breakup be in vain. Don't let it be a waste of everybody's time. Because if you come away with it with some insight into yourself, it wasn't a waste of time. It was productive. Okay, so the first thing David did was acknowledge his own fault. So I have sinned against the Lord. Okay? Step number 2, do everything you can. Okay? So David heard from Nathan that this is the earthly consequence that he's being served. Okay? What does he do? Okay? He does everything he can. He pleaded with God for the child, fasted, and went in and lay all night on the ground. He basically put his entire life on hold to try and plead with God for a different outcome. Okay? He doesn't know if the outcome is going to be different. He doesn't know if God's going to change his mind or not. He doesn't know, but he's going to try. He's going to do everything that he can in his power to try, because he's going to have no regrets. Okay? When he walks away from the situation, no matter what the outcome is, he knows that he did everything he could. And he put his entire effort into trying for the best possible outcome. Okay? This, for somebody like me, is very important. Okay? You can ask my husband. I'm the kind of person where as soon as there's like something, I'm just like, close the chapter, don't look back, see you later. I am very bad at going back and trying and like putting in the extra effort and putting in and doing everything I can. I'm very like, okay, this is not what you want. Okay, hands off, see you later. But then you haven't done everything that you can, and the risk of taking that approach is closure, right? The what ifs. What if I had said this differently? What if I had done this differently? What if I had asked that person this question? What if I had tried to do something differently? You don't want that, okay? If the door is closed, you want it to be permanently closed. You don't want to sit there and dwell and have it consume you for the next, I don't know how long. So if you know that you've done everything that you can and you have no regrets about the situation, you will be more at peace with whatever the outcome is, whether it's in your favor or not in your favor.
And it's like, I don't want to belittle how difficult this was. So like, David sinned, and afterwards he was confronted with the fact that, like, listen, you screwed up. Like, you shouldn't have done whatever you did. And it's very easy when you're like in that situation to be angry or to say, I didn't, I messed up, but it was because this and that, and this is what happened, this is what led to that situation. Make up excuses for yourself. But he didn't do that at all. Like, he said, okay, I messed up, and afterwards really put his all into trying to fix that situation. And in relationships, that's hard, because usually when you've already had that conflict, emotionally you're very low. And when you're emotionally very low, it's really hard to put in extra effort. Like, that effort is even harder than it would when you're emotionally high, or things are going well together. When things are low and you have to try extra hard, that's that says a lot about your character.
So just as a personal example, when we had been dating for 9 months, 8 months, something like that. I don't know, something like that. It's a long time ago now. We broke up at like 8, 9, something like that. You won't know the numbers either. Something like that, okay?
My memory is like a goldfish. I'm done. Like,
something before the year, okay? And we were having some like arguments and some problems, and we broke up. We said, you know what, this is not working, and that's it. We're calling it, and that's it. And like I mentioned to you before, this is hard for somebody like me, okay? I'm obnoxious, I have a lot of pride, okay? And I do not like to be vulnerable. That's not me. It's very, very difficult for me. And so when we broke up, okay, I was just like, okay, like, obviously I was very upset about it, because, like, I mean, look at him. Okay.
What are you trying to say? That was not nice.
No, I'm being serious. Okay? And I was very upset. And so my first reaction was, okay, fine, call it. It took a lot out of me to do this. Okay? Because I'm not the type that will go back. That's not me. Okay? But I did. And he was surprised because it's not me. But it took a lot out of me, and I'm not telling you this story to tell you that if you go back and you do everything that you can, that you're going to get back together. That happened to us, okay? But that's not to say that, in other relationships where somebody's done that it worked out. I've been in a relationship before where the other person did that and I was still not having it. And we obviously didn't get married. But what I'm saying is, you going back is not about the outcome. It's about your perspective on the situation. It's about making sure that at the end of the day, you've left no loose ends. That you've really, really done everything that you could. Does that make sense?
Okay, do everything you can. So the elders of his house arose and went to him to rise up from the ground, but he would not, and nor did he eat food with them. So he was really, like, if you just imagine the situation that happened, kid really sick, and he is like the king. He went into this in the room. He was mourning on the ground, like crying, pleading with the Lord, and everyone around him was worried. They're like, oh my gosh, like this is really wrecking him. Like he's not this is not the king that we know. Like he's not strong. He's crumbled. But really, what he was doing, he was staying focused. Like if he was focused on the situation until the situation went one way or the other. And so do everything you can doesn't mean do everything you can for a moment. It means do everything you can until the situation changes and that you can't do any more.
I think that the take home of this is just don't take a passive approach, right? Don't take a passive approach, do nothing about it and say, oh, well, this is what God wanted, right? Because you also have a role to play.
Okay. Acceptance. So David saw that his servants were whispering. David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore David said to his servants, is the child dead? And they said, he is dead. And then we'll see what he did. At some point in time, in whatever situation in the breakup, and you've tried everything you can, you are gonna reach that wall or that point where, everything has been done and you're now left at a fork in the road. Either you're going to continue or you're going to end the relationship completely. And you want to, like Sarah said before, like you want to minimize the what ifs. If you put your all into that situation and it ended up not working out or working out, that's it. It's done. And you won't go back and regret the things that you didn't do. And
you have to be clear with yourself, right? So a lot of the times when somebody, is in the middle of a breakup or the breakup has just happened or whatever, and you talk to them, they don't want to commit to such a final outcome, right? So I've had friends where, like, okay, what's going on, whatever, we're taking a break. You're not taking a break, you broke up, okay? Be clear, right? The same way we tell you to call your sin by name, okay? Call the situation like it is. We broke up. There is a sense of finality to it, and that sense of finality is important more for you than anybody else, okay? Because the more final you are about it, the quicker you're going to be able to move forward.
And that final means so in my opinion, this is an opinion, is that once the situation is like if you guys decided that's it, we're going to break up, that means no more text messages, no more communication, delete that number. Like you don't want that urge to text that person when something is going wrong.
Delete the conversations. Don't reread the conversations.
Just get that person, and this might sound harsh, but that person, because you were so emotionally invested, the first reaction is to text them again or to reach out to them again. And then you just leave that door, that crack open so that maybe in the future something might happen. And really that is not healthy for anyone. So once that relationship, the decision has been made to end that relationship, my opinion is that you should, at least for a time, stop all communication with that person so that you don't leave your heart a little bit open, you don't leave that relationship, there's a chance, you don't leave things that are not completely closed, because when you do, you really can't move on, they can't move on, and you're kind of just stuck.
What I love about this verse with David is that he just confronts it head on, okay? Not like, is he unwell? How's he doing? What direction is he taking? Is he dead? Yes or no? And it's harsh because we're talking about somebody's life, but it's his approach that is admirable. It's just direct, because you need to be able to call it like it is. I, similar to Rami, have an opinion, okay? You can't be friends, okay? Maybe in 5 years you can be friends, okay? But right now, you can't be friends, okay? I have opinions at baseline about guys and girls being platonic best friends at baseline. I have these baseline opinions. Ask me about it later. But can you be friends immediately after the breakup? No, you can't, okay? Fight me, argue with me, that's fine. You can't. You can be friends later, but not immediately following a breakup. Because if you are too close, what? Fight me. Somebody fight me.
How much later? Like 5 minutes?
So
define later.
we're actually going to get there, because no, but this is an important clarification, because it's not a timestamp. It's not a 24 hours has passed, I'm over him, best friends, okay? No. It's when you get to a certain place, and I have an opinion about what that place is, and it's coming. It's coming.
Okay.
Okay. So,
Move forward. Okay, so it's a long verse, so I'll read it. So David arose from the ground, washed and anointed himself, and changed his clothes. And he went into the house of the Lord and worshipped. Then he went to his own house, and when he requested, they set food before him, and he ate. Then his servant said to him, "What is this that you have done? You fasted and wept for the child while he was alive, but when the child died, you arose and ate food." And he said, "While the child was alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, who can tell whether the Lord will be gracious to me that the child may live? But now he is dead. Why should I fast? Can I bring him back? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me."
this is one of my favorite examples. Like, I love this, okay? Because the social norm, okay, is for David to like sackcloth and ashes on his head and like this thing, and like that's the social norm, right? His son just died. This is very reasonable, okay? His son just died. He should be mourning. He should be whatever. He should be doing that. But David is taking a logical approach, okay? When there was an ability for me to change something, I tried, and I will do it. But he's dead, okay? My sackcloth and my ashes and my whatever, this is not going to bring him back. It's not going to do anything. It's theatrics, okay? Like, I have opinions about that whole thing in our community at Baseline. Don't ask me about that. That's politically incorrect. But he is taking a very, very logical approach to this, where when there was something that I could do, I will do it. But now that there is nothing for me to do, what is the benefit of me sitting in my room and like dwelling? Okay? So, I'm going to disclaimer, this is opinion. Opinion.
And go to Abuna for fact
Yeah.
afterwards.
Okay?
A man dressed in black can tell you fact.
Opinion. Okay? Turn
So-
off the recording. Okay?
But
We don't know yet. Wait. We don't know
so,
yet.
yeah, you don't make that commitment until you hear everything.
Okay.
Yeah. and his David's reaction is actually like his servants were stunned. They were like, and the servant said to him, "What is this that you've done? Like, how could you be like this? Like, you were, 20 minutes ago or an hour ago or yesterday, you were mourning in your room on the ground, pleading to God, like not eating, like in a hunger strike. And then the kid dies, you get up, go take a shower, get dressed, get it, and go eat." And you're just like, what just happened? And, it really is unbelievable as to how he did what he did. Like, he really gave us the example of just like, when there is something that can be done, you do everything that you can. When there is nothing that can be done, it is behind you. It's in the past. You move forward, and the decision has been made.
But we're not minimizing the mourning period, okay? So like we talked about earlier, breakups are hard, okay? Whatever the reason is, whatever the situation was, it's hard for whatever reason, okay? So do you get a mourning period? You get a mourning period, okay? Do you get a period of time where you get to wallow in your own self-pity? You do, okay? Because that breakup is hard, and you need to recover, okay? What is that period?
And
I have an opinion.
And I don't want to minimize the fact, like, this is an extreme example. This is somebody who really did not have that mourning period, and it's something that is admirable and we learn from it. But like,
I'm not David.
Yeah, when I broke up with people, like, it wasn't like, okay, let's move on and just keep on going. Like, that didn't happen. But what we're trying to do is set, what would the ideal reaction would be, and then, see how we can learn from it.
So, Sarah's opinion, not Rami's opinion. I won't yoke him to this if he doesn't want to be, okay? You get 2 days, okay? You get 2 days where you get to cry, and you get to decline all of your friends' invites, and you get to lock yourself in your room, and you get to watch all the sad chick flicks that you want, and eat the ice cream out of the tub. Eat the ice cream. You want to eat the ice cream? Eat the ice cream, okay? You want to finish a whole McCain cake? Who does that? I don't do that. Who does that, okay? Fine. You get 2 days, okay? 2 days.
No. Why not 1 day? Why not 100 days? 1 second.
You get 2 days.
And so, wait, so...
What?
Usually a magic.
You get 2 days.
So I think Sarah's 2 days...
Hold on, I'm not finished, okay? You got 2 days, okay? You got 2 days of the crying and the locking yourself in your room and the ice cream. You get 2 days, okay? On day 3, you will still be sad. You'll still be sad, okay? You will still be missing that person, and you will still be feeling that absence. But you pick yourself up, you take a shower, you go to work, you go to school, whatever your life circumstance is, you pick yourself up and you get on with your life. I'm not saying that on day 3 you're over that person, But I'm saying that on day 3, your pity party has to stop. Because your life has to move on. And you cannot sit there and dwell on something that is unchangeable infinitely. You can't do that. That's not healthy for you. That's not healthy for anybody who's around you. That's not healthy for your future. That's not healthy for your perspective of yourself. So you get 2 days of your pity party. This is my opinion, okay? 2 days of your pity party. Eat your ice cream, gain your weight, cry, don't shower, do whatever you want. On day 3, you pick yourself up.
Or for the guy, it's you're not the guy. I just like I love sports. I went and I played sports, sweated it out, got angry, hit other people. That is, like do whatever you need to do. Like just get aggressive.
But on day 3, your life returns to normalcy. You go out with your friends, you go back to service, you go back to work, you go back to school, you go back to whatever it is you're doing. You're not over that person, okay? And your healing process is going to be a process, okay? And the point at which you are recovered is not on day 3, but your strides to normalcy start on day 3. You get yourself up, you pull your socks up, and you get back to your life. Because anything more, that wallowing is not good for anybody, especially if it's not good for you.
And it's
you
really
cannot sit there indefinitely and just.
It's really easy to stay in the wallow. Like it's really easy to just dwell there, and then when you dwell there, you inevitably will be much worse off than just putting an end to it. We're not saying not to do it. We're saying that you have to consciously make a decision that this is going to end. 2 days or 7 days or whatever, how many days you choose. It has to be a finite, short amount of time.
Your conversations have to change. This cannot consume everything that you do, okay? I don't know how many of you people have been in a situation where you're talking to somebody else, you may or may not be interested, and they're talking about their breakup for like an hour. This cannot consume you. It cannot. It's not good for you. It's not good for the other person because they're going to think you're a stalker. It's not good for anybody, okay? This cannot consume you. So whatever your feelings are on the inside, your first step needs to be the outside, okay? Your first step is moving forward on the outside, and the inside will come in due time, okay? But you have to put effort where you can, and your first effort is the outside. Take a shower, people. Take a shower.
When you break up, it's really easy to avoid your friends, especially because you were in a relationship, and sometimes relationships can become very consuming, and so you spend all this time with a person, and your other relationships with your friends sometimes may not be what they were before. Like you don't see them as much, you don't spend time with them as much, and so you end up losing some of the relationships that you had. And so when you end that relationship, it's important to reach out to the people that you trust, the people that are close to you, and then let them know that happened. Hang out with them, reform some of those relationships that you had with other people, because that's a way for you to move on, to go back to normalcy, to the way things that were before, and to avoid that awkwardness.
I also don't agree with people going into hiding to avoid the other person. Okay? Again, another personal opinion. We actually were just coming off of a conversation with like a pair who every time the one person's ex is coming to a mutual event, they decline. Right? Which is, depending on the size of your social setting. I think in Mississauga there's many options, okay? But in smaller churches, okay, there's not that many groups. There's like 3 total, okay? And so if you're declining every single time you think that other person might not be there, you're kind of becoming a little bit of a hermit, depending on the size of your church, okay? And so I don't agree. For a period of time, that's fine, okay? You need some space, you need some whatever, that's fine. But you will never get to the point of indifference until you see that person, okay? And I think that after a breakup, you're not striving for like anger towards the person or like wishing them ill will. That's not what you're going for. What you're striving for is indifference about the person, okay? When you walk into a room, you are not hyper aware of where that person is in the room relative to where you are.
Or you might be right when you walk in the room, but it doesn't become like I think. Like we've been married a long time. When an ex of mine walks in a room, I kind of know where they are. Like, but I'm not focused on them. Like they're not. It's just like, oh, okay, that person walked in, and then move on. Not like oh, they're there, talking to person X, like
they're
stalker mode.
I'm going this way.
Yeah, like just okay. I understand that there was an emotional attachment, and that you're gonna know, like you're gonna acknowledge when they walk in the room, but don't make them consume you.
What you're striving for is indifference, okay? You're indifferent to who they're dating. You're indifferent to what their Facebook posts are, or Instagram, or whatever.
You're not checking it all the time.
You're indifferent.
To not check it? Yeah, so like my point before of deleting them on social media is to also not check the like it's really Facebook and Instagram and everything, social media makes it almost a little bit harder to disconnect. Because they're showing up on your news feeds, they're doing whatever. And so you have to try your best. You have to try your best to just completely disconnect from their world. And if that means blocking them or doing whatever you have to do, back in our day it was much easier to delete their phone number. But now now it's a lot harder.
So what you're striving for is indifference. Indifference does not come on day 3. Okay?
That's for sure.
It does not.
Honestly, I'm not even agreeing with the 2-day thing.
That's okay.
It's killing me, right?
That's okay. That's okay.
No. So Sarah's a.
Can I just tell you?
Yeah, please.
Tell me.
Okay.
Get it out.
So.
Safe space.
So in a bunch of breakups, it really
We said be close to your friends.
There's so many factors that play a role in how I healed, okay? So one of them was 100% my relationship with God at the time, or what's the strength that I have? Do I know God's love for me, or am I just rejected, and I want to sulk for the next 6 months, okay? So because I don't, I'm just kidding. But I don't have...
Just an example. No judgment. This is a safe space, friend. Go on.
I don't have God's... I don't see how God sees me, and I don't have support and love, and, I mean, I can go on Instagram and start messaging people and getting attention, but that's just another dumb way of getting over this rejection situation. Or I don't have a support system where the girl's like, go out and just meet new people, and as if like, I don't, what do you mean? I'm like emotionally attached. I'm emotionally unavailable for the next person. And it differed from one breakup to the next. And I think having that support system was the number one thing that got me out of sulking and thinking, building an insecurity out of nothing, out of absolutely not even admitting what things went wrong, but also like that support system and the relationship with God and seeing God's, because I don't have any other way. Like attention is not going to cut it. I need unconditional love. And the only way I see it is if I don't see God's love for me, I'm never going to get over this situation.
Absolutely.
So the 2-day thing, it didn't work for me, to be honest.
So but we're saying 2 days or 7 days or whatever X amount of days is not a time period where you are
gonna get over it.
Yeah, it's just a time where you're allowed to just let it consume you.
I read a bunch, I can't remember anything, but they were saying like the beginning of every miracle, someone says get out, like just get out of the floor wall situation, and showering does really.
Right? Life changing. But so that's what we mean, is that when you can get out of your the box that you've put yourself in terms of your mourning, okay? Getting out is the first step. The first step is not you're out, you're good, you're ready for another relationship. But it's the first step that you're going to take to get to that point. And getting to that point is a long road. So for me, striving for indifference is the end goal. But the end goal is not...
That's not day 3 or day 50.
Okay?
Right.
And you know what? That striving for indifference, that is, post-breakup, yes. But that indifference also comes in, friendships that are difficult or conflict that you have with other people. You're striving for indifference about whoever you have conflict with, whoever it is. And that is a long road, the road to indifference. It's a long road. Is it the end goal? It's the end goal. Because you never want to have your social situation dictated by somebody else. Never. Okay? Friend, ex, whatever it is, it should never be dictated by somebody else. But we're playing the long game here.
Okay.
So, like I said, sorry, we got a little bit distracted. Don't avoid social situations because the person's going to be there. Don't do that to yourself, okay? Don't be the one that loses out of this situation because you just can't. You can, okay? And the more that you can desensitize yourself to that person's presence, the closer you are to indifference.
Like
okay?
there are people that we know who are engaged. This relationship is 5 years ago. Like, come on, like it's done with. And the problem is that if you continue to avoid them, this will be a perpetual thing. where 5 years have passed, 6 years have passed, you're both in other relationships and you're happy, but you're still kind of like awkward and not seeing, it's done. The only way to move on is the first time it's uncomfortable, the second time it's uncomfortable, the third time it's less uncomfortable, and by time 50, it's not a big deal. But you have to be uncomfortable to change.
The other thing about avoidance, I just want to throw this out there before we move on, is that avoidance builds anticipation in your mind that's not actually grounded in reality. So these people that we're talking about, okay, they are anticipating the extreme level of awkwardness that will come if they're in the same social situation. The reality is, it's not going to be that awkward. Nobody cares, okay? Like, oh, it's going to be awkward for us and all the people that are around us and at the same table. Nobody cares. Nobody even remembers that you guys were dating. Nobody cares. But they've built this anticipation in their mind that this is going to be the end of the world. Don't do that to yourselves, okay? Don't build something up bigger in your mind than what reality actually is, okay? Rip the Band-Aid off, do it, move on with your life.
All right, so that was the first part. Oh, did you have?
No, it's okay. Go on.
Okay.
So, sorry, the last part was don't lose hope, okay? Because a lot of the times, especially in our community, like old school, our community, you have like a expiry date, right? My mom used to always tell me, if you don't have kids by like 21, a child at 21, when you have kids, like, for some reason, like the older generation gives you like an expiry date for some reason, okay? I think we're past that point. I would hope that we're past that point, okay? And please don't let breakups color your hopefulness for the future, okay? David went through a very traumatic experience. The loss of a child is not something that I would wish upon anybody, okay? But he did it. But, okay, having gone through that difficult situation, he didn't lose hope for the future. If you look at 24, okay, David comforted Bathsheba, his wife, and went in, whatever, so we'll skip that part, okay, and she bore a son, and she called his name Solomon, okay? He went through a very difficult time, but there is always hope for the future. One bad outcome does not take away from your possibilities in the future. So don't let, however many bad outcomes, maybe it's 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, I don't know, okay, color your hope for what is to come.
Okay. So the next part of this is baggage. The first thing to do is I should define what baggage is. So all of us have history. All of us have been through situations. All of us have relationships with whatever, if they are romantic relationships or not. We all have relationships with other people. And so that's reasonable. Baggage is how you feel about it, or the emotional response that you've kept after whatever situation has occurred.
So everybody has baggage, okay? The same way we said that we're now in a different place, we're progressed beyond the fact that, everybody's marriage is their first ever relationship. We know that that's no longer true, okay? We also need to accept that everybody has baggage. It may have come from a relationship, it may have come from something else. Your parents, your friends, your whatever, it doesn't matter, okay? Everybody has some element of baggage, okay? The issue is not whether you do or you don't. The issue is how much of an effect do you let it have on your relationships? Because everybody's going to have it, okay? We have examples of our own baggage, okay, that we had to sort of, navigate when we first got together, okay? It's making me look really bad. When we first got together, okay, I didn't let Rami pay for me for 5.
So just let me set the scene, right? Okay, so the scene is ask a girl out, eventually go out, go on a date, have a good time, and at the end the waiter comes and says,
I'm not going to defend myself.
The waiter says, okay, so, or you tell the waiter, okay, we got to go, so thank you very much. And then girl X, we don't know who she is, says, 2 separate bills, please. And then I'm like, oh, no, it's okay, like I got 2 separate bills, please. What's going on here?
I just want to say that may be a little bit of an exaggeration, but I'm not going to defend myself.
It's not an exaggeration in the least.
I'm not going to
so I'm like, okay, whatever, fine, you want to do it that way, do it that way. Date 2, date 3, date 4, date 5.
5 months.
Like, coffee. I'm like, coffee's like $2. Like, just let me have this one.
5 months.
And so I'm like, what is happening? Why is this girl so against?
Crazy. He wanted to say crazy, but he didn't.
I did not say crazy.
He wanted to say crazy.
Just saying, why is she so against me paying?
And that was a result of baggage, okay? I was very like financially independent from a young age, like whatever, family situations, whatever, but my like clinging to my own financial independence was a result of my own baggage. And it took a long time for me to navigate through that and like work through it and just like relax. Like he can pay for coffee, like just relax, okay? Just let him pay, girls. Okay, let him pay. We'll have a talk about this later, but just let him. It's okay. Okay. But that was something that I clung to from baggage, right? And I wouldn't have been able to acknowledge that prior to the relationship without having had these discussions into why I feel the way I feel about something that's not really a big deal. Right? And he has his own baggage.
I have my own baggage. What was my example?
His baggage.
Like, I didn't write it down, so it just didn't come to me.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
So do you remember how I told you I love David because high highs and low lows, and that's me? Okay. So if I'm like having a horrible day at work, I'm just like, oh, I hate everybody. That's my tagline at the end of work. I come home. It's like, how's your day? I hate everybody. Okay. That's me. Okay. And so he was previously in a relationship with somebody, and the relationship ended because she was very negative.
I hate it. So, and I didn't realize that about myself until the relationship. Is that the expression negative Nellies, like people who see negativity in things, some people see that, but for me that drives me nuts. So like if you say, if we have a conversation and someone notices the 15 negative things about that situation and doesn't notice anything positive, it drives me absolutely crazy. And I did not realize this until I was in a relationship where
the first time I came home from work and I'm like, I hate everybody, and he's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with you? And just like had a panic attack, and I'm like, what? Wow, what just happened?
What just happened there? I'm like, and then I realized, I'm like, the reason why person X was perfect on paper, like they had all the check marks, met all the requirements, which are not important at all, and I'm sure you guys talked about this before, but that specific thing drove me nuts, and so when we started dating, and she said, and Sarah is like extremely positive, like she sees positive things in a lot of things, which is fantastic. But when she sees something that's negative, I'm like, my first reaction is like, Sarah, it's not that bad. Like, come on, like, and I start arguing about it. I'm like, why did I have such a strong reaction? There are negative things that happen, and it's because of my own baggage of just hating that. And only after, thinking about why I had such a reaction to a situation, was I able to understand myself a little bit better, and so move on when we have our next conflict.
So everybody has baggage, whatever it is. Okay.
And if you think you don't have baggage, then you're wrong, because we all have it.
If you think you don't have baggage, you're bad at self-reflection.
Yeah, that's just the problem. The problem is not that.
Okay. So how do you deal with it? How do you make sure that your baggage is not a rate limiting or a big rate limiting to whatever your future holds for you? Okay. So step number 1, we think, acknowledge that you have baggage. Okay. Everybody has it. Maybe from a relationship, may not be from a relationship, whatever. Wherever you got it, okay? Acknowledge that you have it. If you can, this takes a lot of maturity, okay? If you can, have foresight into your baggage. Situations that you may find sensitive because of your baggage. That will help you navigate, okay? So, for example, I have a good friend who came from a troubled home, okay? And so she was very sensitive to yelling, right? So like, some people fight differently. Like some people are yellers and they yell when they fight, and some people are very like silent fighters and they just like they fight and they just don't talk to each other and whatever. So everybody kind of has their own groove, okay? She was very sensitive to the yelling type of people, or the people that their voices get raised, or they have like a little bit of a temper issue, okay? Very sensitive because of the issues that she had in her home life, okay? When she started dating the person that she ended up marrying, she was very upfront about that. She was very like, I feel very strongly about this. When this happens, I just fall apart. This is why. Okay? So if this is something that's going to be a problem for you, you got to let me know. But I need to put this out there because I need you to understand that if this ever happens, my reaction will be stronger than what you're anticipating. Very, very high level of maturity to be able to do that. Are you going to be able to do that the first time you're in a relationship? Probably not. But what I would hope is that you make it a conscious effort to try to do that. Because the more proactive you are about navigating your emotional responses, the better your outcome will be. And the more insight you give that person into why you're responding the way you do. And that insight is the first step to bridging any gaps in communication that you may have. But like I said, it takes a lot of maturity. That maturity comes from being able to self-reflect, which is something that we all need to be able to do, but we're not able to do it very well right away. So that takes a lot of practice. But also having the, I don't want to say confidence, but it is. The confidence to just kind of disclose up front and kind of lay it all out there. Do you know what I mean?
And so, a way to try to figure out what baggage you have is if you found that you had a very strong emotional response to a situation, and you may not think it's an emotional response, but if the person in front of you, if you gauge from that they were taken back by how strong that reaction was, it might be baggage that you have. And so, if you had a very strong response, or it was out of keeping, or stronger than one would expect, maybe just step back and say, why did I act this way? What has happened in my life, or what situation led me to have this strong reaction? The second step is really also very difficult, because you acknowledge that you have baggage, you finally figured out what it was, and then you bring him your baggage. Like you say, God, this is something that is just, I'm having difficulty dealing with. And I'm dealing with it maybe because it happened because of X, Y, and Z, but it's still something that I have and I don't know how to fix. And when you don't know how to fix, and you tell God that you don't know how to fix it, that's the beginning of how He's going to fix it for you. But you have to acknowledge that it's there, and then tell Him, I need your help to do it. And if you tell Him that, He's going to help you.
And I mean, further along in our relationship, a big motivator for me to be able to do this, because it's, again, not something that's intuitive, it's something that you have to work at, was for his sake. Right? It's not his fault that my baggage is what it is. Right? He didn't do anything. He didn't contribute to this being my baggage. He didn't, in a situation where I responded stronger than anticipated, it's not his fault. He didn't do anything wrong. And so a big motivator for me to bring God my baggage for Him to resolve was for His sake, so that He's not picking up the pieces that somebody else left, because that's not His fault, right?
And so, and another thing about baggage is that, baggage, there is baggage, but also baggage has to do with your personality. Like again, you may both be two people may be in a specific situation, but the baggage that they get from that situation is different depending on who they are. So, I, in my heart of hearts, I don't like conflict. I avoid conflict. It's not for me. And so, when
I love it.
Sarah is better. She's better at her job. So Sarah is a manager of a pharmacy department that is extremely, in my mind, dramatic. Yeah, and I would never, ever, ever want her job ever, because it's all conflict resolution, and I don't like conflict. Like in my workplace, if there's a bit of conflict, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is chaos. And it's nothing compared to what you deal with.
It's a game of strategy. I love it.
And so, but your baggage a lot of times has to deal with maybe your personality. So my baggage, in the example that we gave in terms of me not liking negativity, is that negativity sometimes breeds conflict, and I don't like conflict. I don't want to argue with someone all the time. I'll argue when there needs to be an argument, but I generally hate it and avoid it. And so your baggage maybe because of a situation that you went through, and it's probably also tainted by whatever your personality is in how you react to a situation. Number 3.
This one is hard. Okay, so part of what keeps baggage a very present element in your next relationship or whatever it is unresolved grief. Okay, or unresolved, unreconciled feelings about a situation or about something that you did or something that the other person did. Okay. Unfortunately, a lot of the times when you can acknowledge this, it's further down the line than it should have been, right? So, I, 100 years later, realize that I'm not okay with somebody paying for me because of this person, right? But
khalas, that person is long gone, like who cares, okay? But that grief about that situation or those unresolved feelings are still there. Those emotions have to be reconciled, okay? And I'm not saying that like you have to be completely whole again, right? Because who is completely whole? I don't know that person yet, okay? But there needs to be some level of closure, or there needs to be some reconciliation about what happened in that situation. So you it's almost like you have to be good with it. Like it didn't go the way you wanted, but you have to be good with it. You have to be at peace with it. And a lot of the times what helped me get to that point is seeing the good that came of that situation. So even though the outcome wasn't what I wanted, it was a good conversation starter. Or it showed me something about myself that I didn't know previously. Or it showed me something about the other person that I didn't know previously that would have been a deal breaker had I known about it in the beginning, right? So the resolving of your grief doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, the situation is fine with you and you're very happy about it, but it means that you saw some good that came out of it and you're okay with the way that went down. Does that make sense? You're not sitting there like agonizing over that situation still, right? And only until you can get to that point where you're not agonizing and you're not fixating and you're not perseverating on that one situation are you ready to go forward, right? And that, unfortunately, there's no timestamp on that. There's no like after 60 days you should be good to go, right? Because it very much depends on how you're wired, who you are, your personality, the length of the previous situation, what that person did, what damage happened, what was the degree of the damage. It's a very subjective conversation, so there is no timestamp. But what I am going to say, my caveat to that, is that a big portion of how long it takes you to reconcile is within your control, right? There's a portion of it that's outside of your control, and that's fair, okay? But there is a big portion of it that is directly related to your efforts to reconcile it and your efforts to move forward, right? My hope for this talk is that at the end of the day, nobody is passive about this. Nobody is passive about getting over a breakup. Nobody is passive about navigating baggage. That everything that you do is a concerted effort. Because the stronger your efforts are, the closer you are to your end goal. Does that make sense?
And some of that is, we kind of touched on this point already. Gauge your anger towards your ex. So on day one, post breakup, you're going to be angry at that person. If at day 50 you're still as angry about that person and that breakup, that means that you still have a lot of resentment, that you still have a lot of things that you need to work out before you have not moved on. Like you're still stuck. And so part of the gauge that you can look at as to, how far along am I in clearing my baggage or getting over this person and being okay is, how angry am I towards them? If I'm still extremely angry every time I hear someone that has the same name as them, then, you're not there.
So this one, the next one, okay, restabilize your self-esteem. This is one that we don't like to talk about, okay? We don't like to talk about how the other person made us feel about ourselves, right? Because everybody wants to be that cool, calm, collected, like hard exterior, or maybe that's just me, I don't know. But we don't like to talk about what the other person did to our own image of ourselves, okay? But the reality is, depending on how the situation went, there could have been some serious damage there, okay? And at the end of the day, however this ended, nobody likes to feel rejection, okay? Rejection makes you insecure. I don't care who you are and how confident you are, rejection hurts anybody, okay? And so a lot of the times, your baggage comes from the fact that whatever your situation was, your self-esteem took a shot, right? And what we do in response to that self-esteem is we compensate, right? So some people compensate in, arrogance, okay? Some people compensate in, over-explaining their shortcomings or whatever, okay? Whatever your coping mechanism is, it's a band-aid solution to restabilizing your self-esteem, okay? That's the first step. Your compensation is only going to prolong you actually dealing with what the root cause is. And the root cause is that you need to get yourself back up to where you were before this person kind of messed with your image of yourself, right? And like you said, in my opinion, the only way to do that is to redefine yourself from his point of view, right? His point of view is that you are amazing, right? If you weren't amazing, then his love wouldn't be unconditional, okay? And you are worthy, you are valuable, you are worth all of the things that he does for you. You are worth the infinite blessings that he wants to give you, right? He's not sitting there waiting for you to screw up so he can take everything away. He's sitting there waiting for what else he can give you, right? Because to him, you are worth that. And maybe that other person made you feel like you weren't, but what does that other person know? Nothing, right? And so for me, the only way that I was able to do this was to reestablish my value, is to reestablish my value in his eyes, because people will let you down, right? But he never will. That's why his love is the only love that's unconditional. I want to tell you that, like, marriage is like, well, I mean, I wish it was, but we all know people whose marriages didn't last, right? The only person whose love is unconditional is his.
And so, unfortunately, when you talk to people, you always hear that girl messed him up. Like 3 years ago, 5 years ago, he was
never the same after that.
She just wrecked him, and he just can't get over her. And you hear that all the time.
And from girls too. That guy messed her up too.
Sorry, yeah, no. That individual messed up that other individual of the opposite sex.
Let's be fair.
So, and you hear that, and part of that is because that relationship left them broken, and what that means is that their self-esteem was damaged. And this is really important, to rebuild your self-esteem, rebuild your self-worth, understand who you are and how valuable you are. And if you don't, it's going to be really hard to enter in another relationship, because if you enter in another relationship and you are still damaged goods
and seeking validation
over and over again from that person, it's not going to work. So, if you feel that person wrecked you, like, or whatever, then that means that you are not, that baggage is not dealt with. And it's really hard to move on if that baggage is not dealt with.
I was once told, when you're dealing with a difficult situation, like relationships or otherwise, not specific to relationships, that the correct way to sort of get through the situation is not to ask God why. It's to ask him what. Okay? I don't have the audacity to ask him why he's done something, because I don't have the bird's eye view that he has. Okay? I don't have the wisdom that he has. So I don't have the audacity to ask him why. But what I can ask him is what. What did you want me to do with this? What did you want me to take of this? What did you want me to become after this? What did you want me to change after this? And if you can frame your breakups with that doesn't take away from your value as an individual. Okay? That's reflective of the situation. That there is something in the situation that he is trying to give you. Your job is to just figure it out. What is it? Not why he did it. That's his problem, not yours. But what is your role? What were you supposed to do differently? What were you supposed to be after this? What did he want you to take away from this situation?
Yeah. What change did he expect? And this is not just about relationships. This is about every single difficult situation. And so relationships is just an example of a difficult situation, or breakups, are examples of difficult situations. And I actually, someone told me this story once of this person who was, who had a streak of very difficult things that happened. They're older, an older couple who, she got sick, then he got sick, he was in the hospital, she was in the hospital, and then afterwards, people were going to visit them in the hospital, say, how are you? Like, I'm praying for you to get over this. I'm praying for him to get better. I'm praying for him that he gets healthy again. And the wife, who, it's unbelievable that this was her response. She said, please don't pray for him. Please don't be your primary prayer for me to get better. I want your primary prayer is for me to grow and learn whatever lesson God has in store for me. Because whatever situation you went through, it is not a surprise to God, and he has a plan as to how you are going to you're going to grow from whatever situation that is. That relationship that you were in, that was a bad relationship and had a lot of negative situations, and you came out with it feeling very broken, has a goal and a purpose to it. And if you walk out of that relationship and at the end of it realize whatever intention God had for you, whatever way that you were supposed to grow, then it's a positive step in your life.
Okay, so confronting your own shame and guilt. So I would hope that we are making strides with this as a community, right? I always mention this because it drives me crazy, and this is part of the reason why we do these kinds of relationship talks. Is that old school, right? If you were in a relationship and it didn't work out, you were damaged goods, right? Like, that's it. So Martha, I used to always hear that word. It drives me crazy, okay? Like, I would hope that we have made huge strides in this, okay? That we now know that you being in a relationship that didn't work out is not a big deal, okay? Nobody cares. I would hope that's where we are. If there are still feelings of that inside of yourself, I would want you to bring those forward and deal with them, because those kinds of feelings are very destructive, okay? Like letting your any like unwarranted, okay, shame and guilt fester makes you sacrifice what you know to be true in the next relationship because you feel like you don't deserve it. Because you feel like, well, I'm lucky that this person is even dating me because I X, Y, and Z. And that is so destructive. It is so destructive. And that is like a very, very destructive type of baggage. Okay? So I feel very strongly about this. I know I talk about it so much whenever I'm in these talks, but I would hope that we have, as a community, made great strides into understanding that just because you were in a relationship that broke up does not at all take away from your like marketability or whatever you want to call it. Okay? Nobody cares. Okay? You are not any less desirable because you broke up with somebody. Nobody cares. Okay?
And don't feel that way. And then I think this was So we talked about this a bit already, but rebuild your support community. Meaning, when you're in a relationship, a lot of times person X consumes, a good chunk of your time. And when you break up with that person, you have, you've lost a lot of the community that you once had, and you need to rebuild that community. That means reaching out to your friends or your loved ones, your support group, and knowing that they're going to be there for you. But the first step is you have to reach out to them, and that is sometimes difficult to do because you're already so down. And when you're down, you don't want to put extra effort into doing something, but it is important.
And get out. Just get out. Okay? Get out, please. Okay? Make sure you know what you want and why. Okay? Make sure you can acknowledge what parts of your previous relationship is a deal breaker. Okay? Because if you're drawing the same type over and over again, and relationships are ending for the same reasons over and over again, there's something wrong with what you're putting out there because you're getting the same thing back. Okay? So make sure that you understand what parts of that previous relationship were deal breakers for you, and what parts are like non-negotiables, and what parts are baggage. Okay? That line that you draw between those two is very important because it can save a lot of time wasted. Okay? We can tell you about our start another time, but we were very big fans early in our relationship of just being very direct about certain things, like right from the get-go. Like, I have these many deal breakers, he has these many deal breakers. Like, is this a go or not? Because we're not interested in wasting each other's time, right? And a lot of that insight can come from a previous relationship. I didn't know that I felt very strongly about this until this person, okay? And similarly, okay, I didn't know that this is what I was looking for until I met this person. It's the same conversation in different sides, okay?
And remind yourself that God has a plan. Like, especially when you're in your lows, remind yourself that there is an overarching plan that He has for you, and there are steps that He has in order for you to eventually fulfill that plan that He has for you. And just remind yourself that you are, as long as you are trying to be faithful to Him, that you are in His path. And you may not feel that way, and you may feel that you're heading way off kilter, but as long as you are trying to, be in the path that He has planned for you, He is taking care of it. And even if you mess up and you come off the path, He's still taking care of it. But remind yourself God is in control and that He knows what He's doing. And the objective is not today or tomorrow. The objective is way down the line.
This be bold is my way of saying don't be passive, okay? Like, whatever happened to you, it sucks. Get on your horse and keep going, okay? If there's something that's outside of your comfort zone that you wouldn't normally go to it, okay? Push yourself, okay? Be bold. Get out of your rut. Get out of your comfort zone, because God does
the greatest things outside of your comfort zone, okay? We have a whole series about what God does when he pushes you outside of your comfort zone. Be bold and get yourself out of your comfort zone, okay? Because that's where you're going to see God make changes more than ever.
All right.
All right. Sorry we ran over time, as always. Any questions? Any arguments? Any battles? Conflicts?
So, I know there are different kinds of breakups. Like, it could be caused by one of the partners or maybe both of them. So or it could sometimes that can happen because none of them are responsible for it. And you mentioned in the middle that there's no one who's 100% like
Blameless.
mistake.
Mm-hmm.
We're not responsible. But if we can accept that there are some breakups that can happen due to like external tough circumstances, like the two are not to blame. Shouldn't we accept the fact that like there are some circumstances where one of the two partners can be 100% to blame?
So it is really easy to say that that person is 100% to blame.
Another word maybe not necessarily blame.
Or responsible or blame. Same emotion. Like I did nothing wrong is essentially what the end emotion is. I truly don't think that there is a situation where one person is completely blameless, no matter the situation. Let's say the person X cheated on me. You not that, and I'm not saying that blame.
Generally speaking, no one is blameless.
Yeah, so someone did something.
And the part of the breakup itself, like what caused the breakup?
Well, what caused the breakup is complicated. Like breakups happen because of many reasons, but what we're trying to say is the breakup happened. I need to figure out what happened from my side and see what I can change about myself that in this next relationship that I'm in, I am better able to deal with that relationship.
So I'll give you an analogy, okay? This is a stupid analogy. My dad drives the bus for the church that he goes to, okay? So he'll always tell you, the first thing you meet when he tells you, I have a B license, okay? Which means he can drive the school bus, okay? Who cares, okay? Nobody cares if you have a B license, but whatever, okay? He has a B license. And so when he was teaching me to drive, it was horrible. Please make your kids go to driving school, okay? Don't try to teach them to drive yourselves. It was a horrible experience, okay? One thing that he used to always tell me, and I like, he'd be like, there's a car in front of me. I know there's a car in front of me. I see it. I see the car in front of me. I know, okay? And we'd have this fight all the time. And he would tell me, it's not that I think that you're going to get into an accident and it's going to be your fault. But when you're getting your B license, okay, there's a course that you have to take called defensive driving, okay? And what that means is that even if the other person is an idiot, okay, there's still something that you can do about your own technique that will prevent you from somebody else's idiocy, okay? It's the same thing, okay? Even if that person is horrible and wrong and whatever, there was still something that you could have done in that situation that would have made it better. And maybe you did do it, maybe you didn't do it, but there is nobody who is 100% responding appropriately, correctly, with no areas for improvement. Like, you can argue, but I don't think it exists. Because in any situation, whether you're at fault or not, or whether you're to blame or not, there is always something that you can do better. And if there is ever a situation where you think that there's nothing you could have done better,
That probably means that
that's a slippery slope, man.
Yeah, that probably means that you haven't looked into yourself enough to see what situation happened. Even at work. So like at work, I have a colleague who drives me nuts for a variety of reasons.
And that takes a lot, because Rami is not annoyed by anybody ever.
and so like I come in and I'm just like, and I'll vent to Sarah and be like, guess what happened today? And it's so easy to just blame everything on her. Like she is difficult for X, Y, and Z.
And she is.
But really, at the end of the day, I'm sure I could have done something differently where I could have maneuvered that situation so that, their reaction may have been different, or I helped them to reach that point, or I am difficult in this, and no matter how difficult that person is in front of you, There is always something you can do, just like Sarah said.
And can I just frame this conversation? Like, so this person that he's talking about is extremely difficult, and if it was me, I would have killed her by now, okay? This is Rami, who's like the nicest person in the world, who never fights with anybody, who never even notices the annoying things about the most annoying people in the world, okay? And if even Rami, okay, who has the most patience in the whole world, thinks that there's something that he could have done differently, everybody can do something different. If even Rami thinks that, everybody could have done something different.
Exaggeration. Abuna.
I think we have a tendency to blame. We have a tendency to find who is to blame, and it's usually either the other person or God. Usually God is the one that we go to and say, God, why did you allow this stuff? Why did you allow me to go through this? So I would suggest maybe even if I see that it's not my fault, this is a possibility. Sometimes it's not just finding who is at fault, but it's finding, as was mentioned, what do I learn from this? And sometimes the learning, not that I made a mistake, but sometimes I did not read situations well. Maybe I did not read some signs well. And this happens. Sometimes people are in a relationship. It's one of the, not the only scenarios, but one of the scenarios that someone is so into the relationship, someone is into it, but not that much, and the other person is kind of signaling or not interested for one reason or another, but it ends up that they break the relationship. So sometimes you find, so what did I do wrong? Or a tendency, I am in the relationship out of need. I need this relationship because of something, because I need to get out of my house, because I need approval, because I need this, because I need someone to really love me. Because if this does not continue, it means something is wrong about me. But it's usually not the case. And I usually tell people who go through a kind of a breakup, I tell them, I'm happy for you. You know why? Because if this broke up right now, if they had continued, probably it would be more damaging. So the damage that people could experience in a breakup before marriage is significantly less than any breakup that could happen after this. So if this happens, it's not whose fault, but this is a blessing to avoid something that could have been more damaging, and it's something to look for. What is it that I could learn from it?
I think it's easy to put the 100% of the blame on the other person when you're looking for the one thing that happened for to cause this breakup. So when you look back at it and you're like, what happened? And you find one situation, you're like, oh, that must have been it. Like, this is what happened. When you don't fall in love with someone based on one situation. It's a series of things that happen over and over, and that's what leads to it. And similarly, like we have to think about that in a breakup. There must have been more than one thing that led to this, and that's where you can kind of distribute where I was at fault or where I was lacking, and that's how you take that and develop that.
Absolutely.
So well said.
Question. So it's not exactly like related, but like kind of. So pre-breakup, how do you know that the qualities that each of the parties have in the relationship are so like incompatible that you have to like end the relationship? So what I mean to say is, how do you know that you're in an iron sharpens iron type situation where you both have things that you need to be worked on versus no, this needs to end?
I don't know.
Sure.
Okay, I think from my experience, I'm on step one, literally for the last since I was born. Like step one, like reflecting on myself, understanding what I want, who am I. I'm literally changing as the phases go by, and I don't know who I am. So yes, when I was 20, I liked this gangster guy in high school. Right now, I don't even see him. So I change all the time, but reflecting every single time I have some kind of emotion, even with friends, I do it. Like relationship in order to see certain scenarios happen where I don't like it. I can analyze who I am all the time and constantly I write. So I just write down how I'm feeling at every single scenario, even at work or a friend. For example, a friend lied to me last week. I like, and all I triggered back was my like boyfriend from 1985, like that lied to me, and I literally cried. I thought, why are people still lying? Like it's this still, but I know where it's coming from, and if I didn't reflect all the time, I would never have realized that.
So I agree with you. I also think just a very like surface level, because this is a very loaded question. So very surface level. Okay. A lot of the times, if we're in a relationship and we really want it to work out for whatever reason, and it may or may not be going in that direction, we kind of make excuses for the person, or we put hope on the other person, like, oh, this is just how they are now, but later. So when we were like starting to seriously think about committing and stuff like that, the question that I asked myself was, if this never gets better, like this whatever this thing is that's bothering me never ever changes, can I live with this? Can I live with it at the current state? Not hoping for this to change in any way or to get better or to whatever. If this is exactly how it's going to be for the rest of my life, whatever the issue is, can I live with that? Because getting involved with somebody with the hopes that something about them is going to change is a very dangerous game, because odds are that it's not going to change. Odds are the person that you meet is the person that you're going to marry. And, everybody grows to a certain degree, but putting hope on one single element completely changing is a very dangerous game. So I think, and this is just an opinion, the question that you have to ask yourself is, if this never changes, this element of this person never changes, is that something that I can live with?
There's always going to be something that you guys are going to argue about, or something that is not going to work, or something that is going to generate conflict,
So
because you're completely different. You're different people.
Rami always locks my car, okay? I never lock my car. Habibi, nobody wants
Sarah
my
doesn't- Sarah-
2012 Ford Escape. Nobody wants
Sarah
it.
doesn't lock the front door. Sarah doesn't lock anything.
If they want it, they can have it. They need it more than I do. That's fine. But look, nobody wants my 2012 Ford Escape, okay? There's rust on the sides. My trunk doesn't open, and I have no light, okay? Nobody wants it. And if they really want they can have it. They need it more than I do. Khalas, okay? He always locks my car, okay? From when we were dating.
Whoa, and
Maybe
she doesn't lock the house.
Rami for a new car.
No, I asked her. I told her. She doesn't.
Okay? From when we were dating, okay?
No, but
The fact-
she doesn't lock the house. Someone wants something in your house. Like we have a security system. She has never armed it. I sometimes work nights. I will, when I work nights and Sarah and the kids are at home, I'll go on my phone and arm the house, because I know 100%.
Which wakes me up. Thank you.
Because I know 100% that no one's arming it except me.
Okay, so this is a very superficial example, but even when we were dating, okay, like if I wasn't carrying a purse or whatever, and he'd put my keys in his pocket, because look how big his pockets are, they're like down to his knees, okay, he would take and like lock it before he puts it in his pocket. It drives me crazy, okay. Even now, okay, the reason I don't want him to lock my car is because when I have the two kids like this, okay, I need the car to just be open. I don't have time to find where's the keys, where's the button. There's one kid screaming here, one kid screaming here, like there's no time for this, okay. So all the time when I'm trying to load the kids in the car and he's not with me, and I talk to him like, and it drives me crazy, okay. Equally, it drives him crazy that I lock nothing. Okay, I can tell you from when we were dating until now, I have continued to lock nothing, and he has continued to lock everything. Didn't change, not gonna change. Can I live?
I'm hoping it will change.
That's not okay. Can I live with the fact that he will continue to lock everything in my life? Yes, it's okay, no problem. I hate it, but it's okay, no problem. Can he live with the fact that our whole lives will be vulnerable to the general population? I don't know, ask him. Do you know what I mean? So I think the baseline assumption has to be it's never going to change. If it never changes, is that okay with you?
There's big things and small things. Abuna, please.
There's always, I say there is kind of one golden rule in engagement. What you see is what you get. Yeah?
Yes.
So whatever you see in engagement, don't expect it to change, and don't try to change it, because it could change, but it's going to be temporary until the day of the wedding, or maybe a couple of months after the wedding, and then it's going to go back to normal. Unless it is something, unless it's a skill, something that could be learned, and the person really wants to change. Some people want to change, some people. And the other thing is, as mentioned, conflicts are going to exist. But the question, do we have a manageable, a way to resolve conflicts or no way to resolve the conflict? But couples who keep on fighting seriously, significantly, for a few months, and even when the date of the wedding is coming close, I think this is an alarm.
So I have a question. But first, I want to just praise you for like your questions and answers. That was very good of you.
Hilarious.
But I appreciate it. My question is, how would you? What are exercises or things we can do to identify our baggages for those who don't know what they are, how to identify them?
So,
One thing we mentioned previously, if you have and a response that is a very strong response towards a situation, then it's reasonable that you have some kind of baggage that led to that response. And so that may mean that, like, reflecting at the end of your day, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, why did that drive me crazy why did that situation drive me crazy? And then maybe seeing if there was something that was there.
and that doesn't have to be situations just in relationships, right? That can be anywhere, work, friends, conversations with whoever, whatever. Any like strong emotional response to something, there's usually an underlying reason why that's happening. But I think your question is proactive.
Yeah, like
Right.
if there was like a list of situations and you can kind of just think of each one, or some sort of activity that you can do to identify it, rather than like the experience of going your day and then trying to like pinpoint all the things that you're emotional to.
So if there is a proactive way to do it, I don't know what it is.
That would be fantastic.
I think that's great. But
Looking for systematic.
I applaud your like organization.
Yeah, it's actually fantastic. You see exactly what you're trying to do.
So for me, like prior to relationships, what used to prompt these kinds of proactive or preemptive discussions was conversations with my friends, right? Where we would hypothetically, talk about the so-and-so, this person's relationship, whatever, and then you check your opinion. Like, why is my opinion what it is? Or why do I feel that way? Why do I want somebody who's, whatever I think this person should be? And usually those conversations would prompt a little bit of deeper reflection into why I feel the way I did. Barring that, honestly, like conversations with people that were hypotheticals if I wasn't in a relationship, honestly, most of my learning happened like hands-on, on the fly. But I don't know, maybe somebody else has a proactive way to do this. I'm not an organized person.
Yeah.
This is as practical as it's gonna get. Very open about it. Go on a date, figure it out.
I like it. I like it. And boys, ask them out on a date. Very good. I like it. I don't like passive. I'm very much a fan of just, what's that expression? Take the bull by its horns. Okay. All right. So we are back next week. If anybody has any suggestions or things that they specifically want to